Why you escape into addictions. Welcome to today's topic, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Coach Tobias Forst, and let's get right into it. We have a lot on our plates and a lot to do this year. So let's assume the following baseline. You are currently at this moment, today, in the process of taking inventory of your life. You find that over the past years, months, decades even, you've acquired certain behaviors that weren't there before, behaviors that you know are detrimental to yourself. And to put this in a YouTube-friendly way, I ask you for some creativity to interpret what I'm saying next. Let's assume there are some or all or whatever amount of the next factors at play in your life have been so for the past few years. Your imbibing of certain high percentage substances, your increasing need for food at certain times during the day, during the week, always connected with a certain emotional state, your inhalation of dried plants 3 times a week, your attraction to a certain harder substance at least once a month to, as you tell yourself, experience something else entirely, your indulgence in playing online video games 3 hours per day, 7 days a week. Looking back regarding your online game A, that has amounted to 4,000 hours roundabout over the past 4 years, which in total would have been the same as if you 24/7 for 167 days had been playing non-stop. As this pertains more to men as a tendency, let's switch video games out with social media interactions, 3 hours per day, including texting. Or your indulgence in adult movies on certain websites every other day. Or you expressing your concupiscence, if that's the word, concupiscence, you're indulging in carnal desires with strangers once or twice a week, every week of the year, or others that I haven't listed so far. Let's say some of them are true for your particular case. Okay. Let's move on. Next point, next topic. An analysis of your motivation behind it. I see 2 major motivations and a combination of the first 2. Motivation number 1 is distraction. You want to experience something else, feel something else, not look at real life, just forget it for a few minutes or a few hours. Short-term dopamine doses is what you're looking for. You want to dull your senses. You just want to not feel that. Motivation number 2, control. You've long lived with the impression that you don't really have much control about anything in your life, due to having been narcissistically abused, invalidated. Other people had done a very thorough job at keeping your self-esteem low, conditioned you. That is why, in an immature way to break out of not having control, of that cage that is labeled not having control, you build microcosms of having control. You know when you do A, then B happens. You know when you imbibe this substance, when you do A, then B happens. You know when you indulge in adult movies, during and afterwards, when you do A, then B happens. You know when you post another bikini picture with duck face and shallow women comment on how beautiful you are, and beta men comment on that they would marry you right away because you're so beautiful. Then you know when you do A, then B happens, and so on and so forth. And in many cases it will be a combination of both motivations. The distraction and the control. Next point, what effects does it have on you and your life? Let's shine a light on you being your own mental point of origin. How does all this affect you? It affects you in the following ways. You're living in a mirage. You're living in a fake world that has nothing to do with the real one. And despite all the substances you've been consuming, your real life has remained without that much substance. During those times, when it comes to getting ahead in life, improving your life, you've moved nothing. And this is not meant to bash you. This is for all of us to really take an honest look at the point that hurts most. Our own failures, our own dumb decisions, our own tendencies to engage in falling in love with illusions and fantasy worlds. Because today you're saying, no more. I'm done. I'm going to change things. I am changing things for me, for my life. Welcome to this point, ladies and gentlemen. That is exactly the fulcrum, the turning point that you can build on, that you have to and will build on. Because you've realized that a loss of time was not only neutral to your life, it was each time a step backwards. Now, what can you do? Before we go into detail what you can do to change, there is one, to me, most fundamental aspect upon which everything else I'm going to elaborate on for the remainder of this video builds upon. And that is called acceptance. Acceptance of your path until today. Acceptance of all your decisions until today. Acceptance of all that you've ignored, the bad decisions, the willful blindness decisions, and so on and so forth until today. Radical acceptance. And yes, it's going to be painful. And that is a good thing. It is a necessary thing, and it is indispensable. And it is inseparable from this process. If you don't look and engage and deal with your own pain while doing so, nothing will change. Nothing. So what are you going to do next to build upon this foundation? You're going to look for your motivations, your individual what, to name each scorpion. One scorpion is called, I tend to imbibe this substance at certain points during the week on a very, very regular basis. That's the name of this one. That scorpion is named that. Now you extrapolate the why. Why? Because I wanted to distract myself. That's my motive. It's been my motivation for the past whatever years. Then you look at the next and you fill it out as detailed as possible. Be as honest with yourself as possible. And yes, tears will run down your face and you will feel a lot of different feelings, and it's all part of the deal. This is the price to pay for the past, and this is both at the same time your investment for the future. And both of them are a very, very good thing. And the next scorpion you're going to name is, I engaged in certain promiscuous behavior over the past X years. In order, why was that? What was the motivation behind it? Because you might come to the conclusion that it was not about emotional connection, it was about exerting control. Having control over the way of the encounter, the duration of the encounter, the never repeating that encounter, and so on and so forth. Now we come to the very good news, ladies and gents. I see 4 vectors that you have, that you can engage in, should engage in order to change things, turn things around in your life. Vector 1 being addiction counseling. Vector 2, psychotherapy. Vector 3, coaching. And Vector 4, the sine qua non, the one without which not, the indispensable factor. Vector 4 is you actually authentically and from now on permanently wanting to change things. Your openness, your engagement in saving yourself. During the first 3 vectors, you could have, let's invent something, you could have miracle healers, 3 miracle healers. And they would avail to nothing if Vector 4 doesn't stand, if you don't want the change. So it stands and falls with you and your decisions for yourself. Period. This is very ones and zeros, very black and white. It's either do or do not. There is no try, as Grandmaster Yoda said. Over time, you will be able to exchange self-damaging aspects with constructive aspects. And one point in particular I would like to underline, because I don't think it's being talked about often enough and in the detail it deserves, is use your own pain avoidance, your own, regardless of whether you're man or woman. This is programmed into our systems. If we can avoid pain, we usually opt for doing so. This can be in parts muted, otherwise we wouldn't be in relationships with liars and narcissists and toxic people and psychopaths. But the system itself is there, and it will be forever part of our beings. Imagine this system of pain avoidance like a projector. It's always on, there's always light. You cannot dim the light, you cannot turn it off, you cannot smash the projector to pieces. But what you can do, whatever's being projected at the wall as that which is considered a pain to you individually, that projective surface, that picture on that projective surface, or projected surface, that can be changed. Switch what is most painful to you and use your biology to avoid that, to work on avoiding that. And over time you don't even need to look at this, because you've moved so far away from it that you can over time even exchange the perspective from I'm going to do everything to avoid this, come to a point in your life when you know that whatever you're aiming up to includes moving even further away from that. But it's part of the process, part of the first steps. How does this work? You need to visualize your own individual various worst cases. And this is gonna be hard. This is gonna be painful. Take, for example, the imbibing of a certain substance and project it 10 years into the future. Does your body agree with that? Will friends have distanced themselves from you because you're always at the bottle? Or when you engage in overexposing yourself on social media, will your partner, your boyfriend, agree with that over time? Or will he choose somebody with more self-esteem that doesn't derive it from outside validation? And you can should go through all of those factors that affect you in particular, individually, and make the worst cases out of them. Exchange the projected, pictured surface that you look at and consider to be your new biggest fears, biggest pains, and use your system to do everything to avoid it. Vectors 1, 2, and 3 are great complements in helping you refocus yourself. And there's a lot of work you can do on your own. So use those 4 vectors and see how much additional energy you set free within yourself that you can now channel into something constructive, and watch yourself for 6 to 12 months and marvel at what you're actually capable of, ladies and gentlemen. And be your own hero, be your own heroine. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.